When the title of the meeting was presented last year, what you have earned from your fathers, re-earn it in order to possess it. My first thoughts was to the generational transfer, and I wanted to organize a meeting on this theme. I didn't even hope I invited two entrepreneurs from great family companies, family businesses here in Italy, and I'm very happy to introduce them to you. Elena Zambon, President of Zambon Group and President of AIdAF, and Guido Corbetta, Chair of AIdAF-EY of Strategic Management, and Alberto Bombassei, President of Brembo Spa. And Guido Corbetta is also a professor of University of Bocconi in Milan. Thank you for being here with us. The generational transfer seems like an easy thing, like something natural. Family, it's natural. We pass things on from father to son. The truth is, in fact, that it's a little bit more complicated than this. We must take into consideration many different factors: the inclinations of the children, their competences, their interests, legal questions, and after all this, there is a need to construct a governance, a leadership of a manager, a director that direct the family. There are 35,000 companies that have to face this problem. There are companies that face this for the better and for the worse. We decided to begin with Elena Zambon's experience. The family company began in 1906 in Vicenza, and now it has been transferred to Milan. It's a third generation company currently. 118,000 employees in 19 countries. This is just to give you a little bit of curiosity. Now she will tell us more about it. Thank you, Elena. Thank you for this opportunity, because from my point of view, reading the title of the meeting, there is nothing that is more interesting to my experience and adequate in order to tell my story. I'm a third generation from a family whose grandfather I had the possibility to read what he had written, the plan that he had for generations. The capitalist society can only be morally accepted if the private richness become collective well-being and a possibility for other men. Every honest entrepreneur behaves in this way. I think that this speaks volumes on our company, and I think that the company is not of the people who makes it, but it has its own individual personality. It is an extremely complex entity, and our society wants to continue to innovate itself. and through curiosity and the desire to explore, to it is motivated to contribute, to make something which is of value, and that help in a collective progress. This man was an orphan since he was very young. We are at the third generation, as I said, and these 6 letters can help us to understand the company better. Let's go into the past to see what kind of person this founder was, and how this company developed over the last 11 years. Miss, we must hurry. We don't have time. Where are we? We're in a museum, obviously. And how did I get here? You should know this, but it's not very important. I will show you 6 containers. Let's begin with the letter Z. Gaetano Zambon was a son of Giovanni. His father wanted to leave his family company to him, but the son had his own ideas. He became a pharmacist in Padua. With Silvio Farina, he took over the storehouse Zambon. In 1911, it had become so important that it needed a new headquarters. The company began to flourish, and Gaetano had reached a good level of success. In May 1944, the war arrived, and it seemed like at that time that everything had finished. But Gaetano, with his legendary personality, picked up the pieces, and with great improvements, they managed to stand up again. Gaetano leaves the management of the company to his own son in 1946. In 1948, the importance of products is important, but also it is also important to find new markets. Everything began with a request that was made to his colleague, with his provider: go to America. With the molecule H3C, a new chemical was formed. We are talking about a man who makes projects and transforms the reality he has in front of him. But he can only do this if he realizes that in nature there is something that is totally independent of us, and without which we cannot do anything. At the center of everything, there is the person is at the center of his interest. This is the motivation that drives him. This says a lot about the importance of looking at the past in order to look towards the future. To going back to the tradition, we have that responsibility with the principles, the values that guide us in the activities of our everyday work. But if this isn't balanced with changes of the future that bring us towards future, open organization, new models of business, all of this would not have been possible. And then, therefore, 111 years in the last 10 years, we have developed in a particularly strong way. A second message of the founder that I particularly like is that we must try to conserve the founding inspiration of the company, which is this necessary concentration on tradition, but also on current responsibilities. It's only through ethics that we can understand the quality of people. And it is in the quality of people that you are able to respond to the responsibility, which is curing patients, treating patients. In such a complicated world where values have been lost, and it is necessary to reconstruct a new moral infrastructure, especially for such a strong field that looks after, which is healthcare. The ethical vision of a family depends, in a sense, it's important to honor family. We must look at new medicine, which, however, protects family relationships. We look towards innovating, cure, and also care. So taking care of people, not only curing them. Everything works around the molecule, which is the pharmaceutical aspect. 713 million euro goes into production of the active molecule. Without giving as entrepreneurs and creating spaces for new changes, new ideas, there wouldn't be no future. We need to find bravery to renew the company and transforming the spaces of our creation. In order to create spaces so that people that work in the company can come together and have a sincere dialogue and speak about the direction of the company. We are working on the molecule sifenafide for Parkinson. The scientific campus looks after the biotech. There are 22 biotechs which is where the sifenafide molecule comes from. If you have the presumption that you know everything, you won't go very far, especially in this type of age. We couldn't avoid thinking about the new generation, so looking at new ideas. Therefore, we founded Oxygen Generation, with activities to understand what it means to work in this kind of sector. And we're thinking of new models of business for Italian acceleration dedicated to science, healthcare and startup, taught for startups and international researchers. With tutorship and educational initiatives. In our experience, generational transfer means to have the courage to change the company completely. In our case, this third generation has a specificity, it has a particular characteristic regarding spacing towards new realities, but so on the short term, but also on the long term. We're thinking about 100 years ahead, and this is a choice because we have to continuously choose to work for our company continuously. From 27 stockholders, we have reduced to 4. This allowed us to accelerate our decision-making process and share the same type of approach towards risk. So therefore, accompanying the future with new purchases. Our risk would be foolish if it hasn't been managed. So therefore, our risk must be monitored. To do this, we have made a second important decision, therefore, to separate the roles. It is a system of rules in a disciplined way, which shares between the directors a common vision, one team. To have a vision that reunites all of these roles, and it is this way which enables us to have more courage in these ambitions. It's not a negative vision, negative ambition, not in a negative sense, but in the sense of improvement, for improvement, self-improvement, and improvement, social improvement for the society. This is how values become culture and culture becomes quality through people excellence. But this happens only if you impose a tight system of meritocracy, a meritocratical system. This is what I call an open company, because this means favoring conditions through which people participate in this future. They contribute to this future. And how does this happen? Managing things through meritocracy, principles of meritocracy. In 2016, we completely changed the management team, and we began a new journey. And the first meeting they had between 100 managers, they asked themselves, what was the best approach to this company for the future? So they have a priority of conserving this initial inspiration in order to face the new challenges, looking at what they should do and especially what they should not do. What they should not do is to disencourage new ideas, but they must encourage new ideas. We need to accept the fact that our company may pass to new generations that are completely different, with different ideas. Our aim is to make patients' lives better. We do this through innovation, modern health solutions, using digital technologies, but we need to have the courage to act. People will doubt what you say, but they will believe in what you do. And I hope in this video we can show you what we have done.
Questa è la nostra storia.
Thank you.
Now I would like to invite you to think of how strong an identity must be to be so open, to be this open. Maybe during the second round we will ask you more about your company and what you did. On the 20th of July, Alberto Bombassei entered the Automotive Hall of Fame, became part of it. Together with Ferrari, Bugatti, Agnelli, Giugiaro, Bertone, Pininfarina. These are all Italian names, and it speaks volumes on what we can do. From abroad there are Ford, Porsche and many others. I think that for a company this is an acknowledgement of their work. They started only in 1961 when Alberto's father founded this company. When Alberto was very young, he met with one of his main collaborators in Detroit, Enzo Ferrari. So this is really a piece of Italian history. Alberto is second generation. His daughter, who is third generation, is just starting to work. What have you done to achieve such results in such a short time? Of course, we're talking about technical quality and also an aesthetic aspect, which is astounding. Thank you. Thank you for your invitation. I'm here for the first time, and it's an honor for me to have been invited. Can you hear me? Okay. My story is much shorter than the one of my colleague Zambon. We have been working for fewer years. Our company was founded in '61 by my father, together with his brother-in-law and my brother and me. We carried on an Italian tradition, small family businesses, in an area where thousands and thousands of family businesses were born and whose stories are just as interesting. Then we went through a very complex path, and I will try to talk about our success, our failures. Very few companies in Italy, I think, had such a complex journey. We work with American businesses. We are an open company. Our company was, of course, a family business, and now it is a very important corporation. It works in 18 countries. We began as a small family business. We produced for third parties. We started off with my father, his brother-in-law, me and my brother, so as I said, it was a family business. It was very important for our area, for our territory. Our company was founded in Bergamo, which is a traditionally industrial area. There are a lot of small businesses that many of them now have disappeared. Others have developed successfully. Now, we started off producing mechanical products. And the first responsibility I was given by my father was not to make simple things, because everyone can make simple things. He said, let's make difficult things so that we can be competitive. At the same time, my father wanted to make a product that could be recognized and linked to the name of our company. At the time, we were providers of Alfa Romeo, which was the first Italian company to use a certain kind of brakes, so they were incredibly innovative. They introduced disc brakes, whereas at that time everyone used another kind of brakes, drum brakes. Now, as I said, Alfa Romeo started using disc brakes. A truck transporting these discs had an accident. They were very important pieces, and as providers, they called us to fix these products. It seemed a very hard job, but we said, we can do this, we can try. And so this is how we became providers for Alfa Romeo. We succeeded, and we substituted the British provider Alfa Romeo had been working with, and so we found a representative product for us. Another example to show you how things can change by chance, thanks to the meeting with people. In a very short time, we became incredibly skilled, and we were convinced of it. Therefore, we decided to contact the wizard of cars of Formula One, Enzo Ferrari, whom I had the honor to meet as a very young person. I was a bit naive, and I even asked him for a meeting. And I have to thank him for accepting to meet with me. He introduced me to his father. And everyone knew him as a very strict man. Instead, he had a very kind and big heart, very tight, very close to his family, very kind person. When he saw such a young person with a great desire to work and act, he decided to entrust us with the production of these disc brakes. So we were incredibly satisfied and happy. What did we bring to the table? We contributed with an Italian philosophy. Italians are very good at their crafts, and we know beauty, we know aesthetics. At that time, all the companies were trying to find new ways to transport products to save some money. Petrol was very expensive, so everyone was trying to pay less. Companies were looking for lighter products and at the same time more beautiful products. So we added new elements, brake calipers, to these discs with a new design to make them more pleasant to the eye. I worked more in the trading relationships of the company, and I went many times to Turin to meet with the representatives of Fiat, which was the most important company, but we never found an agreement. It was then that we found another very interesting company, a company called Porsche, that was seen by everyone as the university of cars. The most advanced cars were produced by Porsche. So combining our work and the work of Porsche, we created a very successful product. If you are interested in old cars, or if you want to visit a museum of cars, then you'll be able to see that brakes usually used to be very ugly, unpleasant, and instead later on the brake was emphasized in the car design because it was beautiful. You can see that some Porsches have red brake calipers and others are yellow. This means that they are made by different materials. This new design was first appreciated by Porsche and then by many others that got into contact with us: Mercedes, Lancia, Nissan, Chrysler. As a company, we kept on growing and developing. So we thought that we could hire more people so that we could adapt to the new necessities of the market. We therefore decided to collaborate with an American company, a very successful American company. That lacked in technical know-how. Unlike us, we started this collaboration, but it wasn't very fruitful. We didn't realize great products together. This company had to face a lot of difficulties and hurdles. And because of the changes it had to face, the system, the organization of the company changed, as well as the collaboration with us. But we went on developing and growing, and so we managed to get by. Our American partner at one point decided to invest in a new product of the time during the 90s, the so-called ABS anti-lock brakes. And they tried to buy a bigger part of our company. But I would like to remind you that our company was very important to our family. Nonetheless, my brother decided to sell the part he owned, and I remained by myself. I remained as the only stockholder. So my father didn't exactly start the company the way it is now. It was my generation that made it big. Nonetheless, I consider myself second generation. We had to take several hard decisions and to make bold moves. We found a fund that allowed us to buy the part of our company owned by the American company. We made a counter offer by proposing twice as much money as they did. This investment fund helped us for several years. But even though companies usually stop collaborating with them, they kept on working with us. Our listing in the stock market was very successful, so we went on with our activities and we kept on growing, developing. And now many people, many investors, many shareholders invest in our company. So we kept on investing all over the world. Usually Italian companies built their firms outside Italy to import back their products to Italy. We did something different. We built factories all over the world, but we kept in mind that our product could be used even outside Italy, where people could buy it. For example, one of our main factories is in Poland, another one is in Czech Republic. They are all part of the local market. A very important second step was taken in America. We expanded our activity. We built a whole new factory, and a couple of years ago we won an award as best factory in Michigan, as best new factory. In Michigan there had been a huge crisis in the automotive field. Instead, we took the risk to invest, and we were rewarded. Our American market is the best one we're working in right now. Another fundamental market is the Asian market. We bought a part of a company that made brakes. Then we bought the whole company. We then decided to build a factory. We bought another factory from another company, and right now we've just finished our 5th factory in China, and we're going to become the main providers of disc brakes in China, which, as you can understand, is incredibly important in today's world. Moving on, the next most important thing, something I always try to talk about and explain when I travel, is the interpretation of the success of a company. First of all, we have always believed in innovation. We have always wanted to be the first in making something. We were the first ones to produce disc brakes for motorcycles, which are widely used today. Maybe if you like motorcycles, if you may already know it, you know we have the exclusive on the European market. We also provide Japanese companies, American companies. We became the world leader in the motorcycle field. Another important move was to make innovative products and investing in research. Thousands and thousands of workers, of employees work with us, and in Italy we have 650 researchers working for us. They are all very young. I am very proud of this, and I really believe that I have contributed to the development of Italian research in this field. Something that is now much more popular than it used to be. And of course, it has been very important for the growth and the employment of our country. And it played a great role in the competitiveness of my company. Of course, there's still a lot of work to be done. We will keep on doing what we do well, investing in research, involving small, large and medium companies, and I'm convinced of the fact that we will continue to produce quality products. I also believe that it is important to invest in youth employment and to face the issue of unemployment among young people, which is one of the greatest issues of our country. Italy is one of the highest unemployment rate in Europe. Unemployment of young people, most of all, should decrease and at least achieve the results of European countries such as France or Germany. But going back to the main subject of today's meeting, legacy generations. Fathers and sons. I would like to talk about the generational transfer in my company. I believe that shareholders are very important in our company. This doesn't mean they have to have complete control of what happens. But one of the advantages of our company is that we have always chosen the best collaborators the market could offer. Someone sometimes says, if someone is too good at their jobs, then they overshadow the manager. Well, I do not agree. I believe this can only benefit our company. I would like to comment a few figures linked to my company. Over the last 5 years, despite the 2008 economic crisis, our company's listing has gone up by 7%. 70%. Our turnover has increased by 50%. And for this, I have to be thankful to several people. I'm not the responsible for these great results because I give a lot of responsibility to my collaborators that has proven to be incredibly skilled, even more skilled than me. But I'm, of course, extremely satisfied with the results. Now, continuity and the difference in company management. These two aspects are linked. Usually, when someone has a responsibility, then they feel more motivated to achieve good results in a short time without thinking of continuity on the long term. Our company instead aims at a long-term continuity. I am a co-founder of this company, even though I talk about myself as a second-generation collaborator. Now my daughter is working with us, whereas my son has chosen a different path. But this shows that passion is important. If you're not passionate about your work, then you have to choose another path. My daughter is vice president. I'm sorry. My daughter's husband is now vice president, executive vice president of our company. So this shows how family and continuity are important to pass on our legacy. We have a lot of young people working with us, but continuity is based on family. In this way, our values will be preserved and then passed on to future generations. Thank you for your attention.
Allora, i freni che diventano motori di
The brakes that become a motor of development is an interesting concept. At one point, it was said it is over 300 championships that have been won by Brembo. But for us, competition is a necessary laboratory in order to continue to develop. It is not only being visible, visibility is not the most important thing, but the consequences as a real value of what comes out of this business. Let's look at on a more general level, what Guido Corbetta looks after. Guido Corbetta is chair of AIdAF-EY of Strategic Management and Family Business, and a university professor of Bocconi. I'm not an entrepreneur myself, but it is a job that I'm very fascinated with, obviously. I will talk about what entrepreneurs do. It's not very simple in 10 minutes, but I will try to say a couple of things that I think are important. I'm going to try again, and don't take these as rules set in stone, but they are interesting reflections that I have been thinking about during the course of my career. So Alberto Falk, this letter that he wrote to his children in 1999, I really like it because there's something that I think is very important in it. I listened to what Pizzaballa said the other day. The first thing he said was, and what I would like to focus on is the word you. A person, a concrete person who inherits something. I think Alberto had the same kind of idea when he wrote this letter to his 3 children. You must try to express your own personality. You shouldn't try to replicate something. And when Alberto was writing this, he was talking about an important company, an important family business. The second point I wanted to talk about, that I wanted to underline, was the theme of generational transfer, which is central even in the debate in a larger sense, the economic debate, and on an international level, of course. The Financial Times recently published a couple of articles on this theme. It's an important topic. I want to look at generational transfer like on the long term. It's something that develops on the long term. Generational transfer begins very early on, must begin very early on, when the children have 18 or 18 years old or more, or are 18 years old or more. Perhaps they may not become involved in the company directly, but it's important at that age to begin thinking about the future. Their entrance into the company then, it is often talked about whether they should begin elsewhere, outside of the company, or within the company. The university that I work in thinks that it's very important to work outside of the family business at the beginning. Then there is a very long period of coexistence between parents and children. Very long period. It can last up to 15 years, but more, maybe. And then there's a last phase in which the children substitute their parents completely. And of course, these ages are not they're not set in stone, but they are indicative. We're talking about 4 million companies that were looked after in the CDO. The number of companies present in Italy with a turnover superior to €1 million is 215,000. The number of companies present in Italy with a turnover superior of €20 million is 15,898. The family companies present in Italy with a turnover of €20 million are 10,391. If these family businesses can continue to survive, they will continue to be a part of the statistic. Otherwise, they disappear. The percentage of family businesses with a manager, a director who is part of the family is 76%. This percentage does not vary very much in other European countries. 23% of these family businesses are guided by a director which is an over 70-year-old. The over 70-year-olds that exercise a role of as operational director obtain a worse performance. As you can see here in this graph, their success is much more inferior compared to the leaders, the directors that are less than 70 years old. I'm not saying that 70-year-olds shouldn't be directors, but I think that they should find other roles. Maybe the directors should be around 50 years old or something around that age. Last piece of data. Around 2% of family businesses are subjected to a generational transfer. We're around to that 2%. Therefore, we can say that in family businesses with more than €1 million of turnover, almost 3,700 generational transfers happen per year. The process is not easy because 13% of the family businesses reach third generation and 4% reach fourth generation. This depends only on the basis of the success of generational transfer. This also is conditioned by the fact that the society changes and the business changes. Many fields are involved in this transfer. Amongst the first 100 North American companies, only in 1965, only 19% were still alive in 2005. These are not family businesses. But what does this mean? That there are also other factors involved in the survival of a company. It's not the fact of it being a family business is not the only factor. The family is not the only factor, but there are other factors of growth and of also, for example, international trade is a factor. So I have tried to explain here in this slide what my 7 factors of growth are. The first one, and Bombassei said it better than I will, it is to recognize reality. The property of a business is very different to the property of a house. This seems like a very banal observation, but it is fundamental. The second point is we must educate, accepting with caution the risk of freedom. Because sometimes the younger generations can decide to not be on board with the family business and not will to participate. There are some entrepreneurs that at 60 years old realize that they should have changed another career path 20 or 30 years before. We must, in a certain sense, influence them positively, obviously, our children, but of course, if a mother and a father come home from their work and spend their whole time complaining about the difficulty of their job, it is not surprising that their child might say, I want to go abroad, etc., just as an example. The third point is inspired by Don Giussani to be loyal to tradition, towards tradition. We must be loyal towards tradition. And I say this especially to young people. They often say, nothing goes well, there's so many problems. But we must look at tradition. There will be surely a negative side, but also a positive side. We need to look at the positive things as well as the negative. We need to be therefore loyal. And of course, we also have to make an effort in evaluating the tradition without eliminating a vision towards the future. In other words, there is a need to take risks. We have just seen two cases in which risks were taken to buy the company of their brother or of an American partner. The fifth factor is recognizing that generational transfer is a long process. We need patience and determination. And the risk of education, only an age of disciples can generate an age of geniuses. This is by Giussani. And Pizzaballa said, one inherits a legacy. One inherits an inheritance over time, not in one moment, in one single moment in time. The sixth factor is to not ignore property, financial, fiscal, and legal elements. And the seventh is to have a dialogue with appropriate contractors and or third parties, and to listen to others. There is an entrepreneur that has always fascinated me. And I asked him, how did you manage the generational transfer? When my son was 16, I made a new file on my computer and I collected all the articles on generational transfer. When he was a little bit older, about 10 years later, I read all the articles and I made a summary of them. And in the same way, this is correct planning. One must listen to others to manage this transfer. Gianni Agnelli, he is a very ambiguous, perhaps his reputation is quite ambiguous. He says something that is very correct, I think. It is one thing to found something, it is another to maintain it. This distinction is important. The non-founder, he who comes after the founder, has to behave adequately. Elena Zambon says, if you want to raise your children in a certain way, you have to limit your lifestyle so that they grow with responsibility and in the awareness that the company is not the stockbrokers, it's not the shareholders, and it is not of the workers, it's not the families. It does not belong to the family. The 3 children of the founder of Il Foglio, we are very united, not in a romantic sort of unrealistic way. I would say a bit more like Pulp Fiction. We're united, but we're freedom. We're free beings. The point of balance is our Father, and the point of unity will be secured by the good of the company. If we begin to put as a priority, to put the good of the company as a priority, then we can begin to discuss on how we can be united in this common goal. This man is one of the most important shareholders of Auchan. They're a very complicated family, many members are involved. And he says, we adopt 3 behaviors. We speak openly. The topics are all talked about. We're friendly even when things go bad. We are requiring when things go well. Antoine Maillot is the shareholder of Auchan that said these words.
Thank you very much. Talking about 70 years old, I remembered that last year was contacted by a 68-year-old that wanted to talk with me for a company problem. I thought it was about generational transfer. Instead, he complained about the fact that his father wouldn't allow him to be part of the company. I would like to ask them a question about the combining property and management, but we'll talk about this next year. I would like to pose another question. We've heard fascinating stories, but these are all the results of hard work, difficult stories. So nothing is obvious or banal about what they've told us. I would like to conclude by asking, what are you most satisfied with after everything you've done? Elena. Well, looking back, in 2006 we celebrated the 100-year celebration of our company. And I started being very close to this company. And I started thinking about our future, how to create an identity that will remain. I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters. And in my family, we really believe that being beautiful on the inside is the most important thing. And for a company, this means creating and preserving a certain kind of identity, preserving values. And the more you nurture this idea, the more people will be able to be hopeful and build a future. The second thing I'm very satisfied with is the fact that the choices of the ones before me never changed the way I think and the way I act. Together with my sisters, we always tried to find the right path towards the future. I think that my company has a very clear idea of what we want to do and want to pass on. We have great managers working with us, incredibly skilled managers with a great knowledge. Very often people working for you are more skilled than you, and you have to deserve them. This is why you need rules, and there must be no exceptions. The best people come and work for you if you guarantee that rules are respected, if they see continuous exceptions, then the company and the wealth of the company is damaged. I also believe that there are very skilled 70-year-olds. I also believe that what we need is to give room to young people. If Enzo Ferrari hadn't seen this spark in this young person he met, then Alberto Bombassei wouldn't be here. This is why I believe that we have to acknowledge the spark, the will to work hard that young people have. We have to train them or help them work in boards of directors of other companies, because of course this will bring them satisfaction and they will continue to improve. Thank you. Well, very briefly, the more the years go by, the more I remember what my father taught me, even though he always was a manager and not an entrepreneur. And I try to do the same with my daughter and his husband. These are values that may seem obvious, but that are fundamental. Over these last couple of years, as a company, we hired about 420 people in Italy. 95 of these people were below 40 years old. So let's say I'm the exception, but I encourage young people that have new ideas and contribute to our company. Thank you very much, Elena, Zambon, Mr. Bombassei, Mr. Corbetta. I believe this meeting was very fruitful and very reassuring for all of us. I would like to remind you that you can contribute and donate to the meeting at the stands called Donate Now, Dona Ora. In this way, we can support the meeting, which is an incredibly important event in Italy and in Europe. I would like to remind you that you can visit an exhibition about generational transfer. You can watch some videos even outside the exhibitions. Enjoy the meeting. Thank you.